it's Vanessa Warwick on behalf of the Property Investor Show 2011 with another exhibitor interview, and right now I'm joined by Brian Cross, who is Sales Director of Cicada Overseas Property. I got that right, didn't I, Brian?
Yes.
Very welcome to the interview. Now, you exhibited at the show last October and you actually had a very positive outcome from it. Tell us what were the highlights of your experience?
Well, I think like a lot of people coming into that show, we weren't really sure what the footfall would be, the traffic of potential investors coming through the door. We were very happy to see positive numbers come through and a real appetite from people to explore other markets. Mm-hmm. I think with the way that the UK property market has been over the last 18 months to 36, people are looking for alternative ideas. There was a wide variety of options for them, and I think the feedback from people there was generally very positive. Good,
and you were quite impressed with the quality of the people and what they were interested in, and you made some good connections, didn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we had as a company selling freehold ownership of individual units as opposed to being a larger developer building overseas and looking at sort of phased plans, we certainly stood out from the crowd and had something a little bit different there, and we probably, I think, had about 150 very positive inquiries over the course of the 3 days, which was a pretty decent number based on, as I say, the footfall that came through the door.
Fantastic, because of course in business everything starts with a conversation, and at the show you can actually have a large number of conversations, and of course business will be a byproduct of that. So you found that you were meeting people and getting good conversations going.
Absolutely. I think people always appreciate putting a name to a face.
Yeah, face to face is so much better.
Sitting down and asking the questions directly, being able to sit there and actually sort of crunch through the numbers, do some forecasting and so on, not being held back by just finding information online and having a quick couple of conversations on the telephone. And that was one of the positives and one of the reasons why we're going to be back again. Yeah,
so let's talk about exhibiting at the March show. What's going to be your main offering at the March show?
Well, we focus purely on US foreclosure investments. So very simply put, we buy properties on behalf of clients direct from US banks and asset managers. We fully refurbish those properties, and then we also offer a 5-year rental guarantee agreement through a letting partner in the USA, which means that we have an income-bearing freehold ownership investment. We manage all of the legal aspects, and so what we're really doing is removing a lot of the hurdles for a UK investor buying into the US market at this time. It's very well known the prices that can be found in the US market right now, but obviously price doesn't always indicate value, and a lot of people, if they're unaware of what the tripfalls may be, can sort of really wander in blindly into a market that seems very glittering at the time, very accessible at the time, but can very quickly become a bit of a money pit if you don't know what you're doing.
No, absolutely. And what sort of yields are you finding you can get off these kind of investments?
Well, on average, for the type of properties that we're dealing with, which are all detached 3-bedroom homes out in the suburbs, we're looking at an average rental of anything between $750 and $950 per calendar month. We also offer a 5-year rental guarantee through our letting partner, whereby they're offered a 13% gross yield per annum under UK contract. That's really for people that just want the absolute peace of mind that everything's being taken care of for them in every possible way because of the distance involved. I mean, our particular client base tends to vary from people that have always wanted to get into buy-to-let investment but not necessarily had the means, so they like to use a company such as ourselves that essentially hold their hands through those fledgling steps, or people that have got a huge portfolio here in the UK and perhaps other destinations, but they don't know the US market, and again they seek the expertise that we have to offer.
And are you specialising in a very specific area?
It is purely in Detroit and Michigan. Right. We're not looking at holiday homes, swimming pools, palm trees and theme parks, which are the obvious choices for a lot of Brit investors. People often want to buy where they've holidayed and taken their vacations. We're looking at a domestic rental market, we're looking at a long-term rental market, and Detroit, because of its sort of main industry there being the automotive industry and the problems that we all know Detroit has had for that reason, which way exceed the subprime mortgage problems, essentially prices were held at a realistic level during the 2005-2007 bubble, where we saw house prices skyrocket elsewhere. Essentially only people that lived and worked in Detroit were buying houses there. So there wasn't this influx of overseas buyers pushing up the prices, really escalating them to bubble levels and then this very significant drop. There has, of course, been a drop in house prices,
Yep.
but it's really a place that went into trouble much sooner than other parts of the US, and hence has really come back round much sooner.
No, that makes sense. So what about finance on those kind of investments?
Well, the key thing with what we have to offer is that, you know, cash is king in this market. The reason we have such a strong rental market in that particular region is the fact that people are either underemployed or having problems getting mortgage products full stop. So despite the fact that house prices are generally seen to be accessible, much like over here in the UK, you have to have an incredibly strong credit rating, you have to have a fairly hefty mortgage deposit, and that's essentially holding a lot of people back from being able to purchase themselves. That gives us a good domestic rental market, and of course in the US property ownership has not been as key in terms of people's investment strategy as over here in the UK, where it's almost a national sport.
So what sort of prices can you buy the sort of property you've described? It's quite low entry level, isn't it?
It is indeed. I mean, in Detroit in particular, I mean, you could possibly buy a house from anything from sort of $10,000–$15,000 upwards.
Wow.
Of course.
And they're big houses.
And they are big houses, but you would essentially be walking into a bit of a nightmare. You've got to consider the refurbishments, any incumbent debts and back taxes against the property.
Yep.
There's a lot to consider other than the price tag and the face value of that house. What we actually sell is a fully packaged investment. So we source the house on behalf of clients, we buy it directly from the bank, with the client's money in their name at the very beginning of that relationship. We manage all of the incumbent debts and taxes, so you have a clean freehold title and no black marks against that deed. We obviously physically refurbish the property to city standards so it can be legally tenanted and achieve a good rental value. And we also, under instruction from the client, can offer a number of different rental options. So we tenant the property as well. So in that way it's a packaged investment for which we charge £27,500 sterling, roughly speaking around $42,000 in today's market. Houses that we're looking at, the particular zip codes and neighbourhoods that we're looking at, because obviously Detroit is a huge city.
Yes.
They're generally on the open market achieving anything between $65,000 and $85,000 for similar sized and build quality properties.
So you're getting them at quite a significant discount?
Yeah, the client gets instant equity because we're using their money to facilitate the entire investment. We are not a developer, we're not building these houses and selling them on, nor are we buying them and flipping them into market once we've paid for the refurbishment. We act as a broker, that's the term that we prefer to use, i.e. that we facilitate the purchase and all of the other aspects I just mentioned on behalf of client and take a fixed fee for doing so, and we're very transparent about the rates that we charge on that basis. Fair
enough, very good. So just to finish, people are interested to know more about your product. You're actually speaking at a seminar on the Friday, aren't you?
That's right, yeah.
What time?
It's 12:45 on the Friday. I need to check which seminar room, but I'm sure we can display that. We can put
that on the screen. Okay.
Just really looking at the wider US market, what options are open to people, and again really sort of highlighting the fact that a cheap house is not necessarily a sensible investment, and also I think for a lot of people looking at something as an alternative to the fly-to-let market, you know, areas that are not tourist destinations and the reasons why you might want to consider them.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that, and I can tell from what you've said that you're very knowledgeable about your subject, and I totally agree with you that the price tag is not the be-all and end-all. You could actually end up with a really cheap property that financially crucifies you, so it is important to fully understand it, fully understand your yield, who your tenant is, etc., and it seems like you've got that nailed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So that's Brian Cross, and he's going to be at the Property Investor Show. He's going to be speaking at the seminar. If you'd like to get in touch with him prior to the show, you're happy to hear from anybody that would like to book any meetings with you. We'll put Brian's email address on the thread below this video if you want to get in touch with him prior to the show. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed this Property Investor Show exhibitor interview. Thank you very much for watching, and see you at the show.